In this story, Sofía Silva, an emergency nurse and former CIA agent, must save her family after they're taken hostage. With calm and courage, she uses both her medical and tactical training. She takes down the kidnappers, works with the CIA on a rescue mission, and returns to the ER as a hero. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more stories like this one. Let's begin. The emergency room door slid open quickly, and Sofía walked in confidently, feeling the floor tremble beneath her feet as the whole hospital pulsed with urgency. Ahead of her, a long row of monitors beeped in sync, their pace changing with each patient's condition. The bright white lights from the ceiling shone almost blindingly on the screens, where green and red lines formed never-ending patterns. With her stethoscope still around her neck and her lab coat a bit wrinkled from the night shift, she moved to the first monitor on the left. The heart rate line looked uneven, small spikes that didn't flatline but warned of instability. Sofía pressed her lips together, glanced up at the blood pressure readout on the smaller screen, and murmured, 85/50, before calling out. Set the pump to 200 milliliters per hour and start extra fluids. Nurse Perez nodded and quickly turned the dial on the pump while typing the change into the digital chart. To her right, another alarm signaled low oxygen levels. Sofía hurried over, placed the nasal cannula on the patient, adjusted the oxygen flow, and watched the reading jump above 92%. In the distance, voices echoed. Orderlies running, doors buzzing, doctors whispering as they rushed into treatment rooms. Each noise was part of a frantic symphony where every second mattered. A stretcher screeched around a corner and slammed against the far wall. Another critical patient had arrived. Keeping calm, Sofía spoke into her headset. "Bring stretcher 3 forward." Then, without dropping her tablet, she zoomed in on the blood pressure graph. The hallway smelled of disinfectant and hot metal from mixed 4 solutions. Every step's soft echo reminded her how alone the night shift could feel. Yet Sofía showed no fatigue. Her bright, focused eyes scanned the data with the precision of a military radar. Suddenly, the monitor beside her switched from a steady beep to a blaring alarm. The numbers went off balance, and in less than a second, Sofía hit a red button to deliver an adrenaline bolus. Instantly, the heart rate line settled back into a stable rhythm. She took 2 steady breaths, holding back the urge to close her eyes, knowing that here, every success was just a pause before the next crisis. As the patient responded to the drug, Sofía checked her watch. Only 5 minutes had passed since the last stretcher arrived. She turned and called out without hesitation, "Prepare the OR. Possible intubation in 3 minutes." Her voice bounced down the corridor. No one questioned her orders. They all knew her steady hand was the team's anchor. With a quick motion, she picked up her tablet, slung her chart over one shoulder, and headed for the main doors of the emergency area. At the threshold, she surveyed the remaining monitors. Each line represented a life in jeopardy, and somehow she felt responsible for everyone. Another alarm rang out. Someone nearby needed resuscitation right away. Sofía clenched her fists, not from anger, but to focus, held her breath, and dove back into the steady dance of beeps, numbers, and commands. Sofía stepped into room 3 without wasting a second. At the far end, the patient lay still on the stretcher, face pale and breathing ragged. The monitor showed a weak pulse, just 40 beats per minute, and oxygen levels dropping dangerously to 88%. Without hesitation, Sofía moved beside the patient, checked the 4 line, and called out firmly, "Give an atropine bolus, 20 micrograms per kilo. Prepare vecuronium and start bag mask ventilation." Technician Rodriguez acted immediately. As the syringe emptied, Sofía removed the mask and placed a suction cannula by the patient's mouth, clearing away fluids. Every move was precise, Her fingers worked as if she'd done this thousands of times, with no hesitation. One more second, and each breath could have been fatal. From the next operating room came voices. "Has the surgeon arrived? Ready the scalpel." But in that moment, the only sounds that mattered were the irregular beeps of the defibrillator and the hiss of the manual ventilator in her hand. With her other hand, she tapped the patient's chest to encourage the heart to beat. "Set it to R2 mode, 10 joules, she instructed, pointing at the machine. "We'll go up and wait, 3 shocks back-to-back if needed." A green light flashed on the screen, and Sofía stepped back just before the shock ran through the patient's body. The pulse flat-lined for a moment, then returned stronger. 60, 70, 85 beats per minute. A soft sigh escaped the patient's lips, and Sofía held her gaze, as if checking that life had really returned. Next, she hooked the patient up to a mechanical ventilator. She set the tidal volume to 450 milliliters, the rate to 12 breaths per minute, and the oxygen at 50%. The monitor improved right away. Oxygen went up to 94%, and the red alerts stopped blinking. Sofía picked up her stethoscope, pressed it to the patient's chest, and quietly smiled when she heard clear, steady lung sounds. As the anesthesia team maintained the patient, Sofía stepped back and leaned against the wall. A murmur of praise and pats on the back surrounded her. A salute from colleagues who'd watched her calm, quick response. "Great job, Sofía," said Dr. Vargas, handing her a glass of water. "Your fast action saved a life." "Thanks," Sofía replied, gratefully taking the glass. "Let's stay ready." Even so, her mind stayed tense. She trained for years to handle crises, inside ORs and far different situations, but never imagined that between gowns and monitors she'd face something more dangerous than a cardiac arrest. Just then, another alarm caught her attention. A second patient had gone into arrest in the next bay. Sofía spun around. Her team needed her leadership again. With smooth movement, she set the glass down, put on her stethoscope, and headed toward the next life on the line. Crossing the flickering fluorescent hallway felt like moving through a never-ending tunnel, but she entered with determination. She knew that behind each door was another story fighting for every second. When she reached the next stretcher, she placed a steady hand on its rail and spoke up. "Maximize assisted ventilation. We need inotropic support right away." Her voice was firm yet reassuring, giving the whole team confidence that under her lead, every move would be as precise as a military operation. Sofía stepped out of the emergency room with steady steps, knowing that even a moment's rest was a luxury. She crossed the hallway lit by bright white lights, her slippers' soft echo blending with distant murmurs of doctors coming and going from treatment bays. When she reached the small break room, she gently closed the door behind her and felt the frantic pace of her shift ease, if only for a moment. On the Formica table beside an old coffee maker sat 2 freshly washed mugs and a couple of instant coffee packets. Sofía grabbed a packet, measured hot water with a metal spoon that clinked softly, and poured the dark powder into her mug. As she stirred, she inhaled the familiar, strong aroma, feeling a gentle warmth spread through her chest. It was a small ritual that reminded her of cadet days, when she learned to value every pause as a refuge. "Nothing like a minute of peace," she murmured, lifting the mug for a first sip, the bitter taste mixed with the sweet hint of sugar she'd added. For a moment, she closed her eyes and let the outside world blur. Outside the windows, ambulance lights still flickered, but inside, there was near-perfect silence. Her break lasted only seconds. Before she could take another sip, her coat pocket buzzed. She pulled out her phone as deftly as she'd once handled syringes and 4 bags. The screen was filled with notifications. Group messages on the hospital app, alerts about upcoming shifts, and a few urgent emails. Swiping down, Sofía saw 4 unread messages in the emergency chat. Dr. Ramirez. Ward for patients showing infection signs. Please review protocol. Nurse Lopez. Can you swing by the pharmacy before you return? Shift system. Your current shift ends in 45 minutes. Unknown number. Call me urgently. The first two were routine, part of daily coordination that never truly let up. The third reminded her she'd soon swap her coat for something comfy and maybe rest for more than an hour. But the fourth message was different. It came from an unrecognized number and had no text preview. Frowning, she took another sip and then, with steady hands, tapped the unknown alert. It could be a supply vendor, an admin issue, or, worst case, a prank. Still, duty and curiosity compelled her to answer. "Hello," she said softly but clearly. "I'm on break. Who's this?" On the other end came a shaky voice, as if speaking through a tunnel. "Sofía, it's you." I can't hear well." The voice trembled. "Please, I have to show you something." Sofía straightened, set the mug down on a saucer, and glanced around. The break room had only one arched window, through which a pale dawn light crept. No one else was watching. Carefully, she switched the call to video mode. The screen flickered, then stabilized. At first the image was blurry. Moving shadows, unrecognizable walls, and what looked like an arm holding the phone. The voice returned, an urgent whisper. "Look, please." Then the camera shook and settled enough for her to make out the scene. Her living room. There, a few meters away, her partner was surrounded by hooded figures. Behind him, her two young children sat on the floor, hands bound and eyes wide. Her heart hammered. Sofía pressed her lips together and stayed silent for a few seconds, taking in the sight. Then, with all the calm she had left, she whispered, "Where are they? Tell me, where are they?" The voice cut out again, and the screen froze on that tense image. Sofía pressed the phone to her ear, tense, her eyes still on the blurry figures on screen. The voice on the other end was shaky, each word a struggle. "Sofía, please understand. We don't have time." Silence cut between syllables, forcing her to tilt her head to catch every word. That ragged tone wasn't like any routine call. Every pause made her own heartbeat thunder in her temples. "Speak clearly," she urged, hiding the panic that threatened her calm. "Tell me who you are and what you want." A muffled sigh, and then the voice changed, firmer, colder. She realized this wasn't a friend begging for help, but someone trying to control her. "Look at the screen," the caller said. "What you see will happen if you make one wrong move." Sofía tapped to enlarge the video. The image sharpened. Her living room. The hooded figures moved slowly, almost choreographed. She swallowed hard. "What do you want in return?" she asked, voice low but tense. Silence pressed in again. When the line crackled back, the tone was hissed. "There's no deal, Sofía. You must obey." One misstep and the threat cut off in an electric crackle. Sofía fought to stay composed. She'd faced intimidation as an agent, but never with her family at stake. Her fingers dug into the chair's back, the plastic yielding under her grip. "Listen carefully," she said, voice steady. "Give me one reason to trust you." Another pause. Then a different voice, metallic as if through a cheap speaker. "If there isn't a fake medical report, signed by you, on the director's desk in 5 minutes, they all die." Her stomach twisted. The director's office was just meters from the break room, behind a glass door. Moments ago, she would have run. But now, one careless dash could doom her loved ones. "How do I get there without raising suspicion?" she asked, cautious as she stood. "The side service door is unlocked. Go in, leave the file on the desk, and get out immediately. Any delay is on you." Her breathing sped up, but she forced it steady. She set her coffee aside, slipped the phone into her coat pocket, and scanned the small room. The bare table, the single quiet sign on the wall. No one else was watching. In that tight space, She weighed her next move. Duty told her she couldn't abandon her ER patients. Fear told her her family hung by a thread. She'd never felt such conflict. Nurse by day, operative by night. Jaw clenched, she whispered to herself. Understood. 5 minutes. She ended the video call with a quick swipe and tucked her phone away. A heartbeat later, she pictured every second ticking off as she calculated the route to the director's office and back. Resting a hand on the wall by the break room door, she traced the left corridor to the office and the right path back to ER. Taking a deep breath, she straightened up, fingers brushing the hospital badge sewn on her coat, a reminder of the responsibility she carried. With resolve etched on her face and her heart pounding like a hidden stopwatch, Sofía turned the door handle and stepped into the hallway. Sofía walked down the hallway in short, measured steps, holding her phone steadily in front of her face to keep the video stable. The corridor was a narrow tunnel of gray walls, lit by flickering fluorescent lights. On either side, emergency room doors stood ajar, and through them came echoes of crying, urgent orders, and the screech of stretchers. But none of it felt real to Sofía. Her focus was locked on the screen. As she moved, she tapped the video once to enlarge it. Suddenly the image sharpened, and her partner appeared at the center of the frame. He was shielding the children with his body and pleading with the hooded captors. The black hoods hid the attackers' faces, but Sofía could see the stiff grip of their weapons. Her 2 children, hands bound behind their backs, looked up at the camera, their eyes wide and frightened. A knot formed in Sofía's throat. Her heart pounded, each beat reminding her how urgent this was. Instinctively, she pressed the pause button and studied every detail. The pattern of the living room rug, a crooked picture on the wall, the dim glow of a table lamp in the background. She recognized the blue-gray sofa they'd picked together, and knew her worst fears were confirmed. Her family was trapped and in danger. She took a deep breath, fighting the panic. Around her, the hallway buzzed with medical sounds. But for Sofía, it was as if everything had quieted down to that frozen scene. She played the video again, and watched as one of the hooded captors pressed the barrel of a gun against her partner's neck. A chill ran down her spine, and her hands began to sweat, slipping slightly on the phone. "No, this can't be," she whispered through clenched teeth, holding back tears. Her trembling fingers tapped ahead a few seconds to see her family's reaction. The children exchanged confused glances. Her older child, about 8 years old, tried to speak, but a captor shoved him roughly. The clang of metal hitting the floor rang out in the video, like a chain dropping. That single sound echoed in Sofía's ears like a gunshot. She stepped back 2 paces, but the hallway offered no shelter. Pressing her back against the cool wall, she still held the phone high. Resting her cheek on the cold tile, she closed her eyes for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Every second counted, but rushing could ruin her plan. She recalled the captor's voice. "If you don't comply, they die." That threat hovered over her like an invisible blade. A creak from a nearby room door snapped her back. She looked up and saw an orderly wheeling an empty stretcher past. His footsteps drew closer. Without taking her eyes off the phone, Sofía hit pause again. She used 2 fingers to zoom in, wanting the clearest view possible of her partner's sweat-drenched face and her children's expressions. Her partner lifted his chin bravely, staring down a captor as if saying, "You can shoot me instead." That childlike courage broke something inside Sofía. She felt both pride and terror. "Hold on, my loves, wait for me," she murmured, voice choked. The orderly passed by. To avoid drawing attention, Sofía lowered her phone and slipped it quickly into her coat pocket. She took a steadying breath, composed herself, and let her hand rest on her uniform, feeling the warmth of the fabric like an anchor. Now was the time for measured action, not frantic running. Every detail from the video, every subtle clue, was key to her next move. Even stuck in the hallway, Sofía formed a mental plan. She'd return to the treatment bay, act normally, and leave the falsified report as instructed. That would buy her time to set up her real rescue. With determination sharpened by fear and love, Sofía straightened up, slid her hands into her coat pockets, and headed back toward the director's office, stepping as quietly as someone moving through enemy fire. Sofía returned to the treatment bay with measured steps, holding back the urgency still pulsing through her body. Her heart raced, but she forced slow breaths and a calm expression. When she entered, Nurse Perez and Dr. Vargas looked up from the charts and monitors, noticing something different in her gait. "Are you okay, Sofía?" Vargas asked, coming over with her stethoscope in hand. "You seem distracted." "I just felt a bit dizzy," Sofía said firmly. "How's the patient's blood pressure?" Perez checked the screen. "Stable. About 120/70. Oxygen saturation at 96. All under control." Sofía nodded, relieved her team had held steady for those minutes. Yet every brush of her coat reminded her of the video. She hid her sweaty palms in her pockets and, without breaking gaze from the monitors, ran through her next steps. "All right," she said. "Keep sedation and assisted ventilation going. I'll handle the documentation." She moved to the workstation, where a small computer held medical report templates. As she typed with steady hands, she sensed her colleague's concern. The resident Martinez placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "If you need a break, let me know," he whispered. "We've got you covered." She appreciated the kindness, but couldn't afford to step away. With a small shake of her head and a faint smile, she replied, "Thanks, but I'm fine. I just need to focus." Looking up, she saw a slight irregularity on a second patient's heart monitor. She set aside the keyboard, picked up her stethoscope, and placed it on the man's chest. His pulse was uneven, but when she adjusted the ventilator's PEEP setting, the line smoothed out. "Good," she announced. "He's responding well." Dr. Vargas exhaled in relief, and Perez let out a soft sigh. "You're a rock, Sofía." Those words should have comforted her, but instead her throat tightened. A rock meant no one suspected the storm inside her. She stayed silent and resumed typing the partial report. Each word on the screen was a small shelter against the chaos threatening her family. The resident Martinez handed her a cup of water. She accepted it and took a slow sip. The cold liquid soothed her throat. At that moment, her eyes met Vargas's, and the doctor sensed the weight Sofía carried. Vargas reached out and touched her forearm. "If you need to talk, I'm here. You're not alone." Sofía felt the lump in her throat, but couldn't speak. She closed her eyes briefly, gathered her calm, and returned Vargas's look with gratitude. Then she straightened, withdrew her hand, and whispered, "Thank you now. Let me finish this report." Each breath was a practice in control. Inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 6. It was a technique from her training to handle extreme stress. With each exhale, she felt the pressure ease slightly. When the report was ready to print, she placed both hands on the desk and addressed her waiting colleagues. In a steady voice, she said, "I'll print this and take it to the director's office. I'll be right back." A soft beep from the critical care monitor signaled a change. Sofía quickly grabbed the printed sheet, sealed it in an envelope, and slipped her phone inside, tucking it securely. With controlled steps, she walked to the small printer in the corner of the bay. Before leaving, she cast one last glance at her patients. Their monitors showed steady lines, and for a brief moment, she allowed herself to believe the chaos would stay within the hospital walls. Envelope in her right hand and phone in her left, she pushed through the bay door and stepped into the hallway toward the director's office. Each footstep echoed like a slow metronome, counting down the time she had left before the deadline. Sofía took 2 firm steps, and the director's office door clicked shut behind her. As she walked, her mind slipped back to a very different time. Her agency training. Years ago, in a secret facility, she spent weeks learning to move unseen. She remembered the night they sent her to infiltrate a ruined building under moonlight, filtering through broken windows. Her instructor had told her to get inside quietly, avoid the guards, and grab a secret file. No shots. Everything had to be fast and silent. Pressed against the cold wall, Sofía slid her hand along its surface and crept forward, alert for the crunch of debris. Every inch tested her self-control. Slow breaths, soft steps, eyes fixed on the ground. Rounding a corner, she spotted 2 guards near a rusty door. Without hesitation, she melted into the shadows, held her breath, and when she was less than a meter away, she swept the first guard off his feet with a quick wrist lock. Then, dagger knife still in her belt, she struck the second guard's neck with her palm, knocking him out instantly. The flashback brought back the muffled thud of bodies hitting the floor and the steady pulse she'd learned to control. Confident, she approached the door, turned the knob in one fluid motion, entered the room, and retrieved the envelope stamped with the agency seal. Silently, she reversed course and slipped away, mentally tracing every emergency exit as she fled. Now, standing in the hospital hallway with a bogus report envelope clutched at her side, she felt that old skill set come alive in her muscles. The ability to strike and disappear before anyone knew she'd been there. That night of training taught her to trust her instincts and stay calm even when everything around her burned. Leaning for a moment against the doorframe, she let the memory settle. The echo of her past footsteps reminded her that those same skills could save her family. She couldn't rush in blindly, nor let fear freeze her. With a trembling hand, she slid the envelope through the director's mail slot and let it rest on his desk. The silence inside was worlds apart from the ER's chaos. Low voices, the hum of air conditioning, a couple of lights flickering. Sofía knew the CIA trained her to move like a predator. Every step deliberate, every action precise, wasting no energy. She sighed, straightened her shoulders, and brushed her coat aside so no trace of the envelope showed. Each fragment of that old training gave her confidence now. Caught between her life as a nurse and her hidden past. She glanced at her watch. The clock was ticking. She needed to get back to the ER, but her mind raced over every lesson in stealth and counterattack. That night in the ruins taught her that sometimes the best strike is perfect discretion. With crystal clear resolve, she turned and headed back down the hallway, her steps soft and her gaze fixed ahead. Sofía stepped into the hallway with measured strides, the envelope already left in the director's office and her phone hidden in her coat. After just a few paces, she stopped by a narrow window overlooking the parking lot. Dawn light was spilling in, turning the parked cars gold. She caught her reflection over the image of her family on the screen and felt a knot tighten in her chest. She took a deep breath, counting to 4, then let it out slowly. That little exercise helped her think clearly in a critical moment. Rushing could cost lives, but waiting too long could be just as deadly. She had to move like in a chess game. Carefully, one step right, one step left, she pressed her palm to the cool wall. Closing her eyes for a second, she reviewed her options. Go straight back to the emergency room, fake a real dizzy spell, slip away to call for outside help. Or keep following the kidnapper's orders, stay calm around her teammates, and quietly build her plan. Time was the problem. She knew that in minutes, her family's fate could be sealed. Looking down, she spotted the hospital logo painted on the floor in big letters. St. Clair Medical Center. That name reminded her that her duty to save lives shouldn't conflict with her duty to protect her own. With her mind clear, she pulled out her phone and reread the message. 5 minutes for a fake report. Nothing more. She still had about 2 minutes before the director noticed the envelope. That was her window. She decided that after returning to the ER bay and confirming that everything was stable, she'd take the next step. Send an encrypted message to her agency contact, requesting a nearby support team. But first she had to keep her cool, avoid suspicion, and follow the order exactly. She recalled the exact instruction. Side door, go in, drop the report, and get out. She'd done it once already. Now she'd do it again, but with a new goal. Find clues about the real location where her partner and kids were held. Maybe the video had picked up something she could use. A hanging lamp, a shelf, a tiled floor pattern. Anything to map the scene in her mind. Her fingers traced her coat's fabric until she found the inner pocket where she'd slipped her phone after pausing the video. Carefully, she pulled it out and turned on the flashlight feature. She played the video for a few seconds and focused on the living room floor. Light tiles with dark diamond veins. That matched a section of sidewalk on Arboleta Street by the Central Park. Good, she murmured. It could be it. Her teammates would be back in the bay any moment to ask about her delay. With a steady hand, she tucked the phone away and took another deep breath. Each inhale reminded her she was a nurse. Each exhale, that she was a trained operative. This was her pivot point, merging those skills to save the people she loved most. She moved back toward the bay with determined steps. As she walked, she ran through her plan. First check the monitors and give clear instructions, then explain she'd return right after a quick errand, without alarming anyone. They all trusted her composure. Just a few meters from the door, she paused to reaffirm her resolve. Eyes closed, she tapped the hospital badge on her coat with her thumb, then inhaled calmly. That breath was her shield against the chaos inside. With determination in her eyes, Sofía pushed open the bay door and took her place by the monitor. Nurse Perez raised an eyebrow. "You okay?" he asked softly. She met his gaze with a calm smile. "All under control. Go ahead with the procedures." As she resumed her work, she felt the pieces of her plan slot into place. Her decision was made. She would blend caution and ingenuity to rescue her family without sacrificing her patients. Now she just had to take the first step down that dangerous path. Sofía stepped back into the ER bay and gently closed the door behind her. She placed her phone on the instrument tray next to some sterile gauze. The fake report was now with the director, and for the moment, the kidnapper had issued no further orders. Still, time was running out. She needed to pinpoint where her family was held. With resolve, she reopened the video gallery and, before hitting play, studied each still image. The living room floor's tile pattern, light diamonds and dark lines, stood out, but her eyes drifted to a barely legible wall calendar depicting a park. Nearby, a child's trophy sat on a low shelf. A soccer medal with Escuela Arboleta engraved on its ribbon. "Arboleta," Sofía whispered, almost like a prayer. She grabbed her coat and left the bay in search of a city map. In the break room, she found a large wall map showing roads around the hospital. She traced 3 spots with her finger: the Central Park, Arboleta Street, and the nearby residential area. It has to be close by, she thought. Maybe a 2- or 3-story building with an alley entrance. She checked her watch. She still had a few minutes before the director noticed the missing report. Urgent, she slipped her phone into her inner pocket and laid a hand over her hospital badge, as if talking to herself. Stay calm, locate it first. She returned to the map and recalled mental routes she'd drawn during night shifts when the moon lit the streets. She'd driven the main avenue in the ambulance that very night. She knew the tall street lamps, the roundabout with its fountain, and the red-awning pharmacy at the corner. In her mind, she sketched the route from the hospital to Arboleta Park. South on Main Street, right at the 4th intersection, past an old abandoned cinema. Looking out the window, she spotted church domes glowing in the distance and orange trees lining the pedestrian path nearby. That view confirmed her bearings. If the house was on Arboleta Street, it should be about 3 blocks east, past 2 side streets and along a vine-covered wall. "Yes, it fits," she murmured. To be sure, she replayed the video and paused on the frame, showing a window with light curtains. She compared the frame's shape to the alley windows she'd seen on her overnight rounds. The window had a simple sliding frame, no bars, common in 1990s townhouses in that area. She snapped a photo of the screen and zoomed in, now spotting the reflection of a lamp, maybe a floor lamp behind her partner, and the edge of a round rug by the front door. Those clues let her rule out buildings on Arboleda that had metal gates or barred windows. "It's house number 23, she decided, recalling the kidnapper's original message. A chill ran through her. Every detail was a puzzle piece, and this puzzle led straight to her family. But before she moved, she needed a tactical kit for a safe entry. She reached under the stretcher for her medical bag. Inside were syringes, anesthetics, suture supplies, and improvised tools she'd assembled for special emergencies. Wasting no time, she began planning her next move. Equip herself with a surgeon's precision and an operative's efficiency, all while counting the blocks in her head. Logic and boldness had to work together to chart a precise route. Sofía returned to the ER bay with steady steps, the envelope already handed to the director and her family's location mapped in her mind. She rested her hand on the metal medical kit she always carried on the stretcher. On the outside, it looked like any standard case, syringes, gauze for bags, but inside was a hidden compartment, a tactical kit. With a soft click, she opened the main lid. The paper gowns and bandages were stacked like any first aid box. At the back, a Velcro lining hid a small black canvas pouch. Gently, she moved aside the bandages and flipped open the flap. Inside was her emergency gear. A tactical flashlight, slim as a pen, with a strobe mode. A set of lock picks and cylinder extractors for opening small locks quietly. A vial of concentrated lidocaine chloride with a custom cannula for discreetly sedating unsuspecting guards. A mini multi-tool with fine-tip pliers, tweezers, and a retractable blade. An ultra-thin portable charger and USB cable to top up her phone battery if needed. Sofía ran her fingers over each item, checking the shine and edges. She tapped the flashlight tip, rolled the lock picks between thumb and forefinger, and secured the vial so it wouldn't spill. Every piece lay in place as precisely as if lives depended on them. Because they did. In her mind, she ran through the plan. Enter through the side door on Arboleda Street. Quietly pick the lock. Shine the light without alerting the captors, and if discovered, sedate the nearest threat. All with the calm precision of a surgeon. Any sudden noise or movement could endanger her family. Before closing the pouch, she stared at the lidocaine vial and recalled her pharmacology lessons. The right dose would knock out a guard in under 15 seconds without complaints. Under 15 seconds to save them, she thought, a chill running down her spine. Kit ready, she closed the black pouch and covered it again with bandages to hide any signs of tampering. She snapped the case shut and placed it beside her coat. No one must suspect she carried improvised weapons. One mistake here could cost her not just her job, but the freedom she needed to move. She paused to check her standard medical supplies. An adrenaline ampoule, half a roll of tape, sterile gloves. Everything intact for emergencies in the ER. Satisfied no one would notice the missing tactical gear, she straightened up and took a deep breath. Ahead lay the corridor to the director's office and the exit to the outside. Each step now demanded care. The flashlight would stay on low, the picks inserted silently, and the sedative administered with a steady hand. She slung the kit over her shoulder, keeping it close to her body to blend in, and cast one last glance at the monitors showing her patient stable. Fingering the hidden pouch, she headed for the service exit. She had the gear, knew the terrain, and knew exactly what to do. Now all that remained was to contact her agency handler and bring the plan to life. Sofía stepped away from the desk and quietly closed the ER bay door behind her. With the medical bag still on her shoulder, she pulled out her phone and swiped her thumb to open the secure messaging app she used to contact her agency handler. The chat lit up with a green padlock. End-to-end encryption confirmed. With fingers trained through years of experience, she typed a short but precise message. Urgent. Family held at Arboleta 23. Video confirmed. Requesting discreet backup. Entry point. Side door. Access via back alley. Time sensitive. Please confirm. Before sending, she double-checked every word. Arboleta 23 was the key location. Side door gave a clear route. Back alley detailed the access. She hit send. The app showed a spinning circle, then 2 gray check marks, message delivered. She held her breath until they turned blue. Message read, received. Came the reply seconds later, typed in all caps. Team arriving in 10 minutes. Hold position and secure emergency exit. Sofía read the message and carefully put the phone away. The confirmation was a relief, but also a reminder that time was short. The agency team would enter through the back alley, which meant she had to get there first and secure the inside. Each step forward, she matched what she'd seen in the video with what she knew. The house had a side door on the west side, a low brick wall leading to the yard, and a kitchen window with no bars. Everything fit the footage, the floor lamp, the diamond-patterned tile. Glancing once more at her patient's stable monitor, Sofía took a deep breath and whispered to herself, 10 minutes, just enough to go in, neutralize the guard, and get the kids out. With purpose, she headed for the service door. Before opening it, her hand brushed the tactical flashlight inside the bag. She turned her belt slightly. She could feel the lockpicks and the sedative. Everything was in place. At the end of the hallway, she paused under a dim light. Quietly, she repeated the plan in her mind. Step 1, entry. Step 2, neutralize. Step 3, extract the hostages. She opened the door just enough to peek outside. The hospital's back corridor was empty. Only garbage bins and a janitor cart sat in the shadows. The alley beyond had uneven pavement and low streetlights. Perfect for a quiet approach. Sofía slipped into the alley, closed the door behind her, and set the medical bag on top of a graffiti-covered bin. She pulled out her flashlight, set it to the lowest beam, and aimed it at the west wall of house number 23. Weathered bricks, a high vent, and a small latch on the side door. "This is where it starts," she whispered. She tucked the flashlight away, slid the master pick into the latch, and began working with slow, careful hands. Her heartbeat thudded in her temples, but her breath stayed steady. After several tense seconds, the pick turned and the latch clicked. No sound. She pushed the side door open and stepped into a narrow, dark hallway that smelled of detergent and dust. In the quiet, she focused her mind for what came next. Take down the first threat and hold the line until her team arrived through the back. Her head clear and body ready, Sofía moved deeper into the house. The side door opened with a soft whisper as Sofía slipped into the house, gently placing her palm on the wall to avoid making any creaks. The narrow hallway smelled of cleaning products and old wood. As soon as she was inside, she switched on her tactical flashlight in low mode, casting a soft beam on the tiled floor. Those light diamond shapes confirmed she was in the right place. Ahead, a narrow staircase led to the second floor. To her right, a short hallway opened toward what looked like the living room. She remembered the video. Her partner and children were near the back of that room, next to a window with no bars. She had to get there without alerting the masked men, and then find a fast way out to the backyard, where her backup team would be waiting. In her mind, she mapped the route. Entry point. Enter through the side door, move down the kitchen hallway, avoid the creaky floorboards, and turn left just before the living room. Control zone. Stay hidden behind a low table near the shelf where she'd seen the Escuela Arboleda medal. From there, she could observe the captors without being seen. Rescue zone. Quietly approach the first masked man standing near the window, using the flashlight's lowest setting to avoid shining it in anyone's face. Extraction point. After neutralizing him, guide the children out through the side hallway that led to the backyard. That secondary exit had a floor vent, where the agency team would come in to support her. She counted the timing in her head. 3 seconds to reach the hallway, 2 to get to the table, 10 to sedate the first guard, 15 to move the kids out quietly. Less than 30 seconds for everything, before anyone noticed she was there. One detail from the video guided her. In the kitchen, near the hallway door, hung a wall calendar with the current month and an image of a local park. The calendar was pinned to the right side of a bulletin board with a golden thumbtack. She had remembered that tack clearly. It marked the exact point where she had to turn. As she visualized the route, she noticed a small gap in the right wall. The house's intercom. The captors might be using it to communicate. She decided she'd cover it with medical tape to muffle any sound or alarm signal when she got closer. Sofía inhaled slowly and exhaled with control, steadying her breath like during night stealth training. She clipped the flashlight to her inner belt, took the vial of lidocaine from her pocket, and tapped her bag to make sure the lockpicks and multi-tool were still in place. The right side hallway creaked faintly. One of the captors walked past, carrying a dark backpack. Sofía pressed herself against the wall and dimmed the light. The man kept walking, unaware. Once he turned left and disappeared, she moved forward, silent as a shadow. Every step was a promise. One mistake, and her cover was gone. When she reached the control point by the shelf, she saw the medal and calendar exactly as they'd appeared in the footage. She crouched slightly and peered into the room. There was the first captor, standing near where her partner was being held. This was the moment to start the next phase. Use the sedative and take him down quietly. The route was locked in her memory. She was ready to move with the surgical speed that defined her. Every corner of the house, every tile line, every shadow on the wall was part of the map leading her to her family. And in under a minute to freedom. Her plan was set. Stealth, precision, and speed. Sofía moved carefully down the hallway, her heartbeat steady and her pulse calm. Just like her training had taught her. She stopped just at the edge of the living room, turned on her flashlight in its lowest setting, and observed the scene. 3 masked men standing near her partner and children. One kept watch by the window, another held a backpack casually, and the third paced slowly, guarding the space. She took a deep breath to steady her nerves and reached into her inner pocket for the vial of lidocaine. With surgical focus, she pulled out a special syringe already filled with the exact dose, just enough to knock someone out without serious risk. It had to be done right. If she injected too much or missed the spot, the guard could cry out or collapse violently. If she hesitated, another captor might notice. With a small nasopharyngeal spray device she had improvised during her training, she approached the first guard from behind. She crouched low, took out the tiny nozzle, and swiftly inserted it into the attacker's nasal passage. At the same moment, she pressed the spray, releasing a fine mist of sedative. The masked man dropped the backpack and grabbed at his face, coughing and stumbling backward. What's going on?" he muttered, voice muffled, eyes squinting. Sofía took advantage of the confusion and quickly backed into the shadow of a nearby cabinet. The guard staggered a few more steps, dropped to his knees, and then collapsed fully unmoving. Silence returned for a second, so deep, Sofía could hear her own pulse pounding in her ears. She stepped forward and touched his arm to check for a reaction. His pulse was slow and steady. Perfect. The sedative had worked. Then the second guard turned his head, hearing the sound of the fall. Sofía froze. She had to act fast before he realized what had happened. In a calm, clear voice, she mimicked the house's security system. "Gas alert! Emergency system activated!" she called out, just loud enough to startle him. The second guard jumped back and growled in confusion, scanning the room for the source. That was her chance. She pulled out her tactical flashlight, switched to strobe mode, and flashed it straight at his face. The bright flicker stunned him instantly. Moving quickly, Sofía slipped behind him and struck the back of his neck with the metal handle of the flashlight. A dull thud, and the second captor dropped to his knees, then collapsed beside the first. Sofía exhaled slowly, touched his arm to check. He was unconscious too. She glanced at the third man, still standing by the window, facing outside. He hadn't moved, his attention still focused on the street. That worked in her favor. He hadn't seen a thing. Cool air flowed in through the half-open window, rustling the pale curtains. Sofía used the sound as cover and tiptoed toward her children. They were sitting, still tied, but unharmed. Their wide eyes filled with shock and relief when they saw the two guards lying on the floor. "Mom," whispered the oldest, voice shaking. She knelt beside him, gave a gentle smile, and quietly untied his hands. "Sure, everything's okay now," she said, checking that her hands were still steady. "We're going to get out of here, all right?" The boy nodded silently, tears running down his cheeks. Sofía freed the younger one with the same care. Just then, the third captor took a step toward the room, likely reacting to the light. Sofía turned in time to see him, and without saying a word, tightened her grip around the now-empty sedative vial in her pocket. She was ready. She had pulled off the first phase, using sedatives for distraction and securing the rescue zone. But the mission wasn't over. Ahead, the path to the backyard was clear, waiting for the agency team to break in at just the right moment. Sofía moved quietly toward the third masked man, who was still standing with his back to her by the window, unaware of the chaos in the room. With every step, she felt her heartbeat in her temples and smelled a mix of cleaning products and the familiar scent of home. Her flashlight stayed in low mode, pointing to the floor to stay hidden. When she was about 2 meters away, she held her breath and tensed her forearm muscles. The man, now alert from the earlier noise, slowly turned his head. Their eyes met through the mask. There was no time to hesitate. Sofía acted fast and with precision, using a vascular control move she had mastered in her training. "Don't move," she whispered firmly, grabbing the man's wrist with her left hand. At the same time, she turned her hips and hit the muscle at the base of his neck with the palm of the flashlight. He gasped in surprise, and his grip weakened. Sofía quickly wrapped her right hand around his forearm and applied pressure to the brachial artery. The man tried to fight back, but the hold reduced blood flow and made him lose strength. He dropped the gun, and it landed softly on the floor. Calm and focused, Sofía picked up the gun, pointing it down to avoid any accidents. "Relax," she said, pressing her thumb harder on the artery. "I don't want to hurt you. Just don't move." The man groaned and stopped resisting as he felt the blood flow slow down in his arm. She held him there for a few more seconds, until his muscles softened and his eyes blinked slowly. "Good," she whispered. "Stay still." With a quick move, she turned him around, guided him to the edge of the rug, and carefully lowered him to his knees beside the two unconscious guards. She slid the flashlight under his arm, ready to react if needed. As the third man began to recover his pulse and color in his arm, Sofía took the gun and inspected it. A small 9mm pistol, fully loaded. She knew it could help in an emergency, but she trusted her hands more. She placed the weapon in her medical bag, next to the lockpicks, and zipped it shut calmly. Just then, one of her children peeked out from behind the table, eyes wide. "Mom, are they okay?" Sofía crouched beside him, her voice gentle but strong. Yes, sweetheart. They're calm now. They won't wake up. The boy sighed with relief and hugged her leg. She stroked his hair and looked toward the front door, knowing every second mattered. The agency team could arrive at any moment. She nodded slightly to signal the kids to stay close and keep their eyes down to stay calm. Then she returned to the third guard and eased the pressure on his arm, just enough to let blood flow again, without releasing him fully. It was a move of care, not violence, her medical training guiding her. "Rest here," she said softly. "You'll get up when I say so." The man groaned again, but didn't try to move. Sofía stood up slowly and placed the flashlight back into its side pocket in the bag. She looked at her children, who now held onto her coat, and said gently, "It's time to go. Stay behind me and stay quiet." With the children lined up behind her, Sofía mapped the way back. 3 steps to the corner, 2 to the side window, and then a short way down to the backyard. Every step had to be exact and quiet. Before moving, she whispered to her oldest. "Take this," she said, handing him the unloaded pistol carefully. "If you see anything strange, hold it tight." The boy nodded with serious eyes, and Sofía breathed out slowly. She had taken down the last guard with one clean move, and now had a clear way out. Sofía breathed quietly, still feeling the slowed heartbeats of the 3 unconscious guards. Her children held tightly onto her coat, their wide eyes full of fear and relief, reflecting the dim light of the room. Gently, she brushed some hair from her older son's face and whispered, "Stay together. Stay quiet. Everything's okay." Then she leaned toward the first man she had sedated with lidocaine. His phone was lying next to him, screen dark. Softly, not wanting to raise any alarms, she muttered, "I need to know what this group is planning." She reached out and picked up the phone. With one quick and silent move, she unlocked it using a fingerprint code she had memorized during past missions. The screen lit up, showing the encrypted messaging app the kidnappers used to coordinate. The most recent message was just minutes old. "Make sure no one comes in through the front door. Reinforcements will switch in 15. Sofía pressed her lips together. That change of guards gave her a clear time window. If she moved before they arrived, she had a better chance to get her family out safely. She kept scrolling and found another message that confirmed it. "Escape route, back door, alley B. Support team arriving through rooftop." Now it made sense why the agency was sending help through the backyard. The roof was a clear path in. She stored this info in her mind like a vital map point. In the contact list, she found one number used often under the name Boss. She decided she didn't need more. Every extra second was a risk. Still, she set the phone to call recording mode and called the most recent number. After one ring, a metallic voice answered. It was one of the kidnappers, unaware of who had called. "And once they leave, make sure no one chases from Arboleda Street," said the tired voice through a headset. Before being noticed, Sofía ended the call and put the phone in her coat pocket. She had what she needed. The next guard team was coming from the roof, and the boss was afraid of pursuit from Arboleda Street. That short call, secretly recorded, would be key for coordinating the agency's attack. Then she checked the phone's photo gallery. There were a few images of inside the house. One showed the hostages by the window, another showed the side door open. A third gave a wide view of the kitchen and furniture layout. The last picture was the most important. It showed a masked man standing near the back garage. His face was blurry, but the phone's Wi-Fi connection had picked up a name. Captain. Sofía made a mental note. Captain would be the second target to neutralize if the agency met resistance. That same photo also showed a security camera in the garage corner, pointed at the yard. Now she understood where the fake alarm she triggered had come from. Those cameras could be used to distract the enemy. With the key information locked in her mind, Sofía let out a slow breath. She knew now that this wasn't just about her medical or combat skills. It was also about understanding the enemy's plan. That phone held their entire strategy. She stood up and looked at her children, who stared at her with love and fear. "Gently," she said. "We're going to the car now. Mom has everything ready to get us out safe." They nodded and got ready to follow. Sofía walked to the window and opened it slowly, holding on to the frame to avoid making noise. The cool, early morning air came in, carrying the soft sounds of the city. "Easy now, nice and slow," she told them. With her children beside her, she climbed down the outer wall using the skills she had kept sharp through training. Once in the backyard, she touched the cold brick to find her bearings and moved toward the garage where her car was waiting. As she walked, she reviewed the plan. Side door entry, neutralize the guards, collect intel, and now the retreat. The next step would be hiding her youngest in the trunk before guiding her partner and older son out. Every move mattered in this careful mission. The cool, early morning air brushed Sophia's face as she carefully crossed the backyard toward the car. Her children stayed close to the wall, under a vine-covered awning, their wide eyes full of hope and worry. In a calm but firm voice, she told them, "Stay here, together and quiet." The older boy nodded, still holding the unloaded pistol she had given him. The younger one, barely 5 years old, gripped the fabric of her coat with trembling hands. Sofía crouched in front of him. "Listen, sweetie," she whispered, gently undoing the ties on his wrists. "I'm going to place you behind the car, in the trunk, okay? You'll be safe there, and the man who's coming will help you get out." The little one nodded slightly and gave a soft yes. Sofía looked up at the kitchen window, making sure no kidnapper was watching, then turned back to her son. In one smooth but careful move, she untied him completely, picked up his small backpack, and placed it in front of him. "Careful now," she said. "Push your backpack into the trunk, then climb in and close it gently." The boy followed her instructions. He paused for a moment, then pushed the backpack inside and crawled in after it. Sofía stood firm, arms crossed over her chest to hide the shaking in her legs. She watched as the child settled under the blankets and softly closed the lid of the trunk with a click. Then, she signaled for him to lie face down. Meanwhile, her older son came closer with careful steps, holding the flashlight and the safety pistol tightly. Sofía placed a hand on his shoulder. "Good job, champ. Now go stay close to your little brother and wait for us." The boy moved back beside the car and crouched to peek through a crack in the trunk. The moonlight reflected on his face, and Sofía felt certain her younger son had understood what to do. With the youngest safe, Sofía stepped away to check the area. But her mind was already racing. Next, she had to return inside to get her partner and oldest son out. Before going, she crouched by the trunk and opened a small gap to pass a thin cable connected to her phone. This would let her contact the agency team if needed. Then she shut the trunk completely, placed the car key in her pocket, and left the back door ready to open from the inside once everyone was together. Suddenly, a shadow moved behind her. The older boy had stepped too far and was now in the open part of the yard. Sofía quickly whispered, "Stay behind the car, okay? Don't move too far." The boy returned to his spot beside the trunk, surprised by the tense tone in her voice. Sofía looked up at the side door of the house, ready to vanish once again into the darkness. Just as she took a step toward the hallway, a loud crack broke the silence. An old wooden beam had shifted under the weight of moisture and let out a dry creak. Sofía held her breath and scanned the yard. Everything looked normal. The alley behind the house was still empty. But she knew better than to relax. In high-stress moments like these, even the smallest sound could change everything. She glanced back at the car, where her youngest son stayed hidden, silent and safe, and thought of his bravery. Closing her eyes for a moment, she breathed slowly, calming herself with the steady rhythm that helped her stay focused under pressure. Then, she lifted her arms, stood straight, and turned the doorknob to re-enter the house. Every muscle in her body felt tight, but Sofía walked forward with steady steps, ready to finish the rescue mission. The next reunion, with her partner and older son, would be the final step before escaping together. Sofía moved carefully back into the house, leaving the car behind with her children safely hidden in the trunk. The hallway was dim, lit only by the faint light coming through the side window. With the unloaded gun tucked into her bag and her lockpicks ready, she turned her head to avoid stepping on any of the unconscious bodies. Suddenly, a louder creak made her freeze. From the living room, she heard chairs scraping and muffled voices. Someone was moving. Sofía pressed her back against the wall just outside the room. When she peeked with her flashlight set on low, she saw that the third masked man had recovered faster than expected. The man, his arms still sore but mobile, had dragged the first sedated guard toward him and now held him tightly. Unaware of Sofía's position, he had moved the hostages again. He grabbed the older boy by the arm and placed him near the window, forcing the younger one to sit up in the middle of the room. "Head up," the man growled, his voice rough. "Nobody moves unless I say so." The older child stood stiff by the window, his frightened eyes locked on the dark figure threatening them again. The younger one began to sob softly, confused and scared. Sofía fought the urge to leap forward. One wrong move from that man could cost her children their lives. She held her breath, recalling her training under pressure. Patience could be her strongest weapon. In a calm but firm voice, she addressed him. "Easy. Leave them alone. I'm not here to run." The masked man tensed his shoulders and raised the improvised weapon he had picked up from the floor. Sofía tightened her grip on the handle of her bag, ready to act. "Who are you?" he asked, stepping closer. "Police?" She gave the smallest nod, her voice low. "Yes, police. I'm only here for them. Let them go, and no one gets hurt." The man tilted his head, clearly thinking over her words. The two boys, standing side by side, exchanged a silent, trembling glance. Sofía seized the moment. She tossed a small object onto the floor. A strip of medical tape with a drop of lidocaine she had prepped in her kit. The piece landed at the attacker's feet, and he frowned, lowering the weapon to brush it aside. "What's this?" he muttered. Before he could react, Sofía hurled the flashlight in her right hand straight toward his chin. The strike cut through the air with a faint whistle. As he lifted his hands to defend himself, she moved in, wrapping her arms around his neck in a soft carotid hold. Just enough pressure to drop him without permanent harm. The man gasped and dropped next to his two unconscious companions. Silence flooded the room again, broken only by the quiet sob of the youngest boy. Sofía let out a deep breath. Without fully releasing the hold, she eased the man's body to the floor, then pulled away completely, leaving him unconscious. She rushed to her children, pulling the older boy up by the shoulder and scooping the younger one into her arms, her grip full of motherly strength. "Let's go, sweetheart," she whispered to the older child. "It's over now." Still crying, both boys nodded and clung to her. She kissed their foreheads and held them close to her chest as she moved toward the side door. She knew the danger wasn't gone. The enemy's backup could arrive at any moment. With the children secure in her arms, she turned the doorknob and stepped into the hallway, careful not to let the floor creak. Every step brought them closer to the backyard, and the car where they could hide again. At that moment, all the tension in her chest surged at once. The setback had tested her calm, but her quick thinking and swift reaction had proven something deeper. Her training and her love as a mother had fused into an unstoppable force. Sofía stepped into the backyard with her children firmly held at her sides. The cool morning air brushed her face, and for a brief moment, the noise and fear of the night seemed to fade. But she knew that calm wasn't a luxury. It was a tool she needed to stick to the plan. So before moving forward, she used the breathing control technique she had learned during her CIA training. She stopped next to a short brick wall, leaned her back against the cold surface, and closed her eyes. She breathed in while counting silently to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Held the air for 2 seconds, then breathed out slowly while counting to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She repeated the cycle at least 3 times before moving again. With each breath out, her heartbeat slowed, and the weight of the tactical bag, and the emotional load of the night, felt lighter. The soft whimpering of her younger son faded as he matched her steady rhythm, and the older one watched her and started breathing deeply too, copying the pattern. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sofía whispered gently, using her voice to calm them all. The boys followed along, and soon none of them were breathing fast. With her shoulders relaxed and her thoughts clear, Sofía opened her eyes, ready for the next step. She looked up and saw the first light of sunrise, but also the long shadows cast by the hospital walls. The narrow alley was hidden from outside noise, and she turned it into a quiet space for focus. "All right," she murmured. "We can keep going." She crouched and spoke into her older son's ear. "When we get in the car, keep your eyes open and look around. If something feels off, press this," she said, pointing to the unloaded pistol in his hand. The boy nodded seriously and tucked the pistol into his back pocket. Then Sofía turned her focus to the house. She needed to switch back to mission mode and guide the next move. She pulled a short-range tactical radio from her bag and, with a calm, low voice, tuned into a private frequency that only her undercover team used. The radio gave a small beep to confirm the connection. "This is Silva," she said. "Over." A steady voice answered on the other end. "Silva, I read you. Hostiles neutralized. Backup is 200 meters out, entering from the roof. Over." Sofía nodded to herself, knowing they couldn't see her. That confirmation gave her the green light to send the panic signal that would launch the coordinated entry. She took out her tactical flashlight, pressed the strobe mode, and raised it to head height. 3 short flashes in fast sequence that meant ready for breach. In response, she heard soft footsteps and the faint sound of gear moving across roof tiles inside the house. The strike team was on the roof, preparing to drop into the backyard. With the boys staying close and her breathing now calm again, Sofía put away the flashlight, slipped the radio into her inside pocket, and took a deep breath. Every inhale reminded her that her training guided her instincts, and every exhale promised that nothing would stop her mission. Just as the final footstep echoed from the rooftop chimney, Sofía saw a shadow sliding down through the skylight. It was the sign that the undercover team had entered. In seconds, the synchronized takedown would begin. She gently signaled her boys to stay close to the car, then turned the door handle and stepped back into the house. The path to the center of operations was now shorter, but the tension remained. Thanks to her controlled breathing, her mind was clear, ready to lead the final stage. Sofía moved quickly down the narrow hallway leading to the backyard, her children close at her sides. The cold dawn air came through the side door she had left slightly open, and the faint sound of boots landing on the roof told her the assault team was already in position. When she reached the old garbage bin where she had hidden part of her tactical gear, she pulled out her short-range radio with the same calm she once used holding a scalpel in the ER. She pressed the PTT, push to talk button and spoke in a low but clear voice. "This is Silva. Confirm arrival of Alpha 2 and Alpha 3. Over." After a short pause, a soft whisper answered. "Alpha 2 on the roof, 30 seconds to drop. Alpha 3 covering rear access, stepping carefully. Over." Sofía nodded, though no one could see her, and took a deep breath to ease the pressure in her chest. Then she continued, "Copy. Bravo 1 will create distraction inside. Bravo 2 will escort hostages to the car. Keep comms on secondary channel. Over and out." Another voice came through the static. "Copy that, Silva. Bravo 1 will trigger gas alarm from the intercom. Bravo 2 will cover extraction point. Over." Sofía placed the radio back inside her coat pocket and turned toward the house, now quiet after the hostiles had been neutralized. She knew at any moment the internal alarms, remotely triggered, would sound off briefly to confuse any guards outside and give her team a window to move in quietly. In the meantime, she kept her breathing calm, just as she had trained. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 1, exhale for 6. The breathing helped her stay alert without panic. Success now depended on perfect timing between her actions and the arrival of the backup team. From where she stood, she noticed a faint glow on the hallway floor. It was the light sensor Silva had told her about before entering. It was a signal that Alpha 2 had started their descent through the skylight. Shadows flickered across the wall, silent and moving fast. Proof the team was advancing. Sofía crept closer to the kitchen door to peek inside. She caught a quick red flash. The fake gas alarm had gone off. The mechanical buzz echoed through the hallway and was sure to draw attention from outside patrols, while Bravo team prepared to extract the hostages. With steady hands, she pressed the PTT again. "All teams, listen. In 5 seconds, we launch the panic signal. Get ready. Over." She felt her older son squeeze her hand tightly, sensing the tension. She smiled gently at him and whispered, "Remember your task. Watch from the trunk and stay calm." The younger boy, tucked into the blankets, stared at her with wide eyes. Sofía stroked his hair softly before standing back up and stepping toward the center of the yard. From there, she pulled out her tactical flashlight, pointed it at the car's light sensor, and switched on strobe mode. 3 fast flashes lit up the yard, the final panic signal. At that moment, a sharp thud hit the roof, followed by the creak of the skylight opening. Helmeted figures appeared against the early morning sky. Alpha 2 was descending by rope, securing the house from above. Meanwhile, at the back garage, a faint strip of light showed, and the sound of gloves rubbing metal reached her ears. Bravo 3 had entered through the low fence, just as planned. Sofía dropped the flashlight and, with a firm voice, gave the command that marked the start of the assault. Bravo 1, begin hostage extraction. Bravo 2, cover the exit. Alpha teams, secure the perimeter. Go. As soon as she said it, footsteps rushed through the hallway, and the gas alarm covered any sound. The team moved as one, guided by Sofía's voice and the flashlight signals. Fueled by adrenaline and the calm that came from her training, Sofía stood by the service door, ready to move in as soon as Bravo 1 called out the exact extraction point. Seconds passed like a distant drumbeat, each one bringing the mission closer to its end. The brief flash from the flashlight lit up the backyard with an intense blink, barely noticeable unless you knew what to look for. Sofía stood up with her children at her sides the moment her eyes adjusted again to the dark. The panic signal had triggered the full plan, a coordinated system of distractions and simultaneous assault. From the rooftop, Alpha 2 finished their descent using ropes, stepping carefully on the slippery tiles and wooden beams. Each member wore discreet vests and light helmets, moving silently toward the edges of the yard. On the other side, Bravo 3 slipped in through the low grate of the back garage, covering the opposite entrance. Inside the hallway, Bravo 1, who had stayed behind as decoy, pressed the main intercom button. A fake gas alarm echoed through the house with a mechanical buzz. Lights flickered, and a red warning flashed on the security panel next to the main door. The goal was to lure any outside guards back inside, exposing the access points they had been protecting. The air smelled like old detergent and damp, with a faint hint of gasoline still on the garage floor. A chill ran down Sofia's spine despite the adrenaline. In a steady, low voice, she gave the order. Bravo 1, confirm inside perimeter secure. Bravo 2, prepare to extract hostages. Alpha 2 and 3, secure top and bottom entries. Responses came in coordinated whispers. Bravo 1, perimeter clear. Bravo 2, hostages under our care. Alpha 2, rooftop secure. Alpha 3, rear access clear. Over. The radios gave a short crackle. Confirmation of a synchronized assault. Just then, a rubber-padded guard landed on a nearby roof section. It was Alpha 2, making sure no extra guards escaped through the terrace. Quickly, they dropped into the yard and circled the area where Sofía and the kids waited. Carrying her case, with the children pressed close to her, Sofía stepped forward to Bravo 2. 2 agents flanked the side door, while another pair moved to the car. The soft shuffle of boots and gear sealed the space like a quiet, secure room. Meanwhile, Alpha 3 operated at the garage gate. The bars gave way with a faint metallic sound as the agents pushed them aside. The strobe light on the hidden radio blinked one last time, signaling mission complete. Sofía locked eyes with Bravo 2's lead agent, a man with a deep voice who nodded respectfully. No words were needed. Together, they guided the children to the extraction point. "This way, quiet and fast," the agent instructed. The older child moved first, the unloaded pistol still tucked in his pocket, following orders to keep watch. The younger one, his cheeks marked by dried tears, held his brother's hand and walked next to Sofía, who kept her focus straight ahead. While the family moved out, Alpha 2 and 3 secured every corner of the yard, checking for traps or hidden alarms. Bravo 1 repositioned the 3 unconscious captors in a safe corner, far from the exit route. Every move was smooth, fast, and precise, like a tactical ballet. At the car, Sofía turned the trunk handle and opened it. Her younger son sat up slowly, like waking from a dream. His older brother jumped in to hug him tightly. Sofía kissed both on the forehead before guiding them inside. "Hop in. Seatbelts on. Quick," she instructed. The children obeyed and settled into the back seat. Sofía closed the trunk with a soft click while Bravo 2 handled the captors behind her. Then Alpha 2 reported via radio. "Silva, secure the exit. Vehicle is clear. Over and out." Sofía turned to the car and, without letting go of her front radio, pressed the remote key. The engine purred quietly. The car rolled forward a few meters, stopping under an unlit street lamp, ready for a false route to the hospital or straight to the agency's hidden base. As the car started to move, Sofía exhaled slowly and leaned toward her older son. "We did it. Now let's go," she said calmly. The vehicle slipped into the early morning, lights off, disappearing in the quiet dawn. Behind them, the assault team secured the scene and took full control of the captors. The rescue mission was a success, thanks to the panic signal and the perfect timing between Sofía and her backup team. The buzz of the simulated alarm still echoed faintly in the air as the assault team moved through the backyard with the precision of a synchronized unit. Alpha 2 agents, dressed in dark helmets and discreet vests, had descended through the skylight and positioned themselves at the edge of the rooftop, pointing silencers toward the upper windows. Alpha 3, covering the garage entrance, removed the gate with a swift wrist turn and secured the corridor leading to the alley. Bravo 1, interior perimeter neutralized, came a clear whisper through the radio. Bravo 2, hostages extracted. All Alpha units advance. Sofía, with her children close, stepped into the backyard escorted by 2 Bravo 2 agents, moving in fluid formation. Every outside guard had been neutralized in seconds, some with discreet sedatives, others with precise strikes to vascular points, following Sofía's same quiet, surgical protocol. No shots fired, no screams, only the muffled thuds of bodies hitting the ground. As they crossed the threshold of the back door, they entered the living room. The three captors remained unconscious against the wall. Soft morning light filtered through the curtains. Without pause, one Bravo 2 agent cuffed the attackers, while another collected any exposed weapons. "This is Silva," the Bravo 2 leader said through PTT. "External guards neutralized. Extraction point confirmed." Sofía nodded and scanned the interior, her eyes sweeping every corner. The tiled floor, the shelf with the Arboleta school medal, and the low table created a familiar scene, but now free of danger. She turned to her partner, still groggy in the corner. "Sweetheart, I'm here." He lifted his head, his eyes wide with relief. His hands rested behind him on the worn wooden floor. When he saw her, his lips trembled with a quiet, "Thank you." Two more agents opened the door to the next bedroom, the one where the children had hidden earlier. It was empty now, except for a fallen stuffed toy and a wrinkled blanket on the ground. Footsteps approached, the older kids returning. Sofía glanced at her partner, then at the agents, and motioned with her chin toward the car. "Take him outside," she ordered one of Bravo 2. "I'll stay here." The agent took her partner by the arm and led him down the hall, while Sofía turned back toward the heart of the house. She waved her hand for the two older children to follow her through the back door. Come on," she whispered gently. "We're almost done." With her family gathered, Sofía turned on her heel and stepped into the center of the room to ensure no threat remained. An Alpha 3 agent blocked the stairs to the upper floor, while another swept the nearby kitchen. "Alpha 3, confirm upper floor clear." "Upper floor secure, Silva." Sofía nodded, then told the children to stay quiet as they crossed the room. With each step, the eldest kept an eye out, his safety pistol in his pocket, while the youngest held tightly to her hand. As they exited into the hall, the soft static of radios mixed with the echo of their steps. Bravo 2 had already led her partner to the car and settled him beside the younger children. The air now smelled of damp concrete and freshly cut grass. In a voice firm, yet filled with quiet emotion, Sofía gave the final command. "Bravo 2, load the hostages in order. All Alpha units, return to rooftop or rear exit for withdrawal. Over and out." The agent accompanying Sofía gently opened the trunk and helped her partner inside, while the youngest boy settled beside his brother. Sofía closed the lid softly, turned the ignition key, and looked to an agent who gave her a thumbs up. Then, she turned and drove her family away from the danger zone, slipping into the early light without headlights, heading for the safety of the base. Behind them, the CIA team finalized the scene, cuffing the captors, securing evidence, and preparing the mission report. In that fleeting moment, Sofía felt the tension leave her muscles. She had led a synchronized assault, neutralized every threat, and secured her family's escape route. Her breathing, steady and controlled, marked the rhythm of a victory born from resolve and precise decisions. Sofía paused for a moment in the back doorway, looking at the living room with fresh eyes. The mosaic floor, once a scene of fear, now showed soft traces of quiet footprints. Those of the Bravo 2 and Alpha 3 agents. With her tactical case hanging at her side and silencers attached to every weapon, she moved silently, watching each step to avoid alerting any remaining guard. "Go ahead carefully," she whispered to her oldest, pointing down the hallway. The boy nodded and followed, stepping softly on the smooth wooden floor. On the other side of the hall, morning light spilled in through the kitchen window, casting a golden glow on the tiles and tables. Sofía raised her hand in a stop signal and locked eyes on the corner. There stood the leader of the group, the last masked man, standing by the pantry door, holding a phone. He looked disoriented, still recovering from the fall of his teammates. Sofía held her breath, crouched slightly to lower her center of gravity, and pulled the trigger on her silenced weapon. The soft puff barely cut through the faint hum of a distant engine and the lingering sound of the fake alarm. The leader staggered for a second. The gun dropped from his hand, and he collapsed without a sound. "All clear," she murmured. With the same calm as a surgeon closing a cut, she picked up the fallen weapon, knelt down, and placed her hand on the man's head to ensure he was truly out. Then, gently, she pushed him toward the wall to join the others already down. "Dad's okay," her oldest whispered, brushing Sophia's shoulder. She nodded softly, and without taking her eyes off the last attacker, she said quietly, "Come here, right here." The younger child, overwhelmed with relief, stepped forward and wrapped his arms behind Sophia's back, searching for safety. She held him close, guiding him toward the main room. As they walked, Loria, the Bravo 2 agent escorting them, stepped closer and said, "Silva, interior is clear. No other hostiles." Sophia gave her a thankful nod, then looked once more at the unconscious attacker. In a gentle voice, she said, "It's over. Let's go meet your mom and your brothers outside." The boy, still in shock, looked up and forced out a quiet thank you. Sophia gave him a small smile, proud of his strength. Their footsteps echoed through the hallway, from the back entrance to the heart of the home. She turned the side of her coat to retrieve the phone she had taken earlier. The screen was cracked and dusty, but the data connection still showed warning signals. She decided not to waste time. There was no need for more clues now. The extraction was still underway. In the front room, the family reunited under the soft morning light shining through the main window. The car waited just outside the back door, and the distant noise of the city came through the broken glass. The remaining Alpha and Bravo agents were cuffing the captors and collecting evidence. Sophia gave one last order on the front radio. "Bravo 2, secure the captors and gather the remaining weapons. All Alpha units, return to rooftop for aerial cover." "Over and out." The soft click of confirmation echoed in her earpiece. Then, she took her partner's hand and her oldest son's. "Now quick," she said. She led them out the back door toward the waiting car. With steady steps and calm breath, they climbed into the back seat. Sophia closed the door, fastened her seatbelt, and touched her partner's shoulder with a thankful gesture. As she started the engine and turned the wheel toward the alley exit, her heart pounded. Outside, Alpha agents packed up the rope ladder, and Bravo agents locked the garage gate. The mission had ended without a single visible gunshot and no civilian casualties. Driving away, Sophia glanced back at the place where, just minutes ago, she had fought through fear. Her eyes shimmered with relief. The combination of quiet steps and silenced weapons had been her key to victory. Sophia took a step back after closing the rear door, leaving behind the car and the faint voices of the agents securing the perimeter. In front of her, in the center of the living room, lay the group's leader, slumped against the wall, hood down, his face covered in sweat and dust. The man, with hard eyes and a tight jaw, slowly opened his eyes as he sensed Sophia's presence. She stepped forward, her silenced weapon still in hand, the case at her hip. Her movements were controlled, rehearsed, without a hint of hesitation. When she was less than 2 meters from the leader, she stopped, leaned her back against the doorframe, and stared at him, calm but unyielding. "You were the brains behind this," Sophia said firmly. "I want to know why you did it." The leader spat on the floor. His voice was rough. "You have no idea who you're messing with, nurse," he growled. "This isn't a game." Sophia tilted her head slightly, a half-smile forming. "I'm not here to play games. I want answers. Who paid you to kidnap my family?" The man frowned and tried to sit up, but Sophia raised her hand and pressed his wrist just enough to remind him he wasn't alone. "Don't try to stand up," she warned in a quiet voice. He sighed, lowering his eyes to the floor. After a moment of silence, he muttered, "Doesn't matter who I am or who pays me. I just follow orders. Sofía clenched her fist around the gun. Orders come from someone. A name. A group. Tell me. The man swallowed, then slowly turned his head toward her. The order was to eliminate a protected witness. Your husband. My name's not important. That sounds like... Sofía started, the pieces finally clicking in her mind. A cartel hit? A rival corporation? He closed his eyes for a second, then let out a resigned breath and spoke, his voice brittle. There are two men, El Zorro and La Sombra. One cleans the message. The other cleans the problem. Guess which one handles coordination? Sofía took a deep breath, fighting the anger threatening to rise. Still, her voice stayed calm. I need names. Locations. Now. The masked man hesitated, weighing the consequences of speaking. At last he gave in. What you want is in a safe in the basement of a building on Central Avenue. Number 45. Everything's there. Receipts, orders, payments. But if you go there, they'll know I talked. Sofía narrowed her eyes, well aware of the danger. But that information was exactly the kind of proof she needed to expose those behind the plan. She answered in a quiet, steady voice. Thanks. I'll keep that in mind. Without waiting for more, she turned around. At that moment, she sensed movement behind her. One of the Bravo 2 agents approached, reaching to take her hand to make sure she was okay. Sofía met his eyes, offering a grateful look while keeping her grip on the gun and case. Silva, you all right? The agent whispered. Yes, she replied, still resolute. This goes deeper than I thought. She turned back to face the leader, who now lay motionless, defeated, and fully aware he had lost. Sofía crouched to remove the last hood and tied his hands behind his back with the plastic ties carried by the agents. I don't want to kill anyone, she said. But if you ever threaten my family again, I promise I won't hesitate. The leader tilted his head in pain, nodded once, and closed his eyes, accepting defeat. Just then, Sofía's radio gave a soft beep. Bravo 2 reporting that her partner and children were already en route to a safe location. Sofía exhaled and holstered her weapon, feeling that, at last, the battle was over. The car moved quietly down the narrow street, with no headlights, lit only by a few distant street lamps. Sofía kept a steady grip on the wheel, glancing in the rear-view mirror. Her partner sat in the back seat with the children. When she found a safe place to stop, a small parking spot beside an ivy-covered wall, she turned the wheel and gently shut off the engine. We're here, she said softly. Let's get out carefully. The older child opened the door and helped his little brother out first. Sofía got out and walked around to open the front passenger door, where her partner waited silently, his palms sweaty and his heart clearly pounding under a dust-stained shirt. Love, Sofía whispered as she helped him down. We're going to get out of this, okay? He nodded with effort, placing a hand on the doorframe to steady himself. Sofía wrapped her arm around him and led him to the front of the car, where she had laid out a clean blanket from the back seat. She sat him down gently on the hood, resting his back against the soft fabric. Breathe slowly, she said. I'm going to check your injuries. With calm, practiced hands, she opened her mini first aid kit from the tactical case, setting aside the operation tools. She took out a sterile towel, moistened it with clean water, and began to wipe the cuts on his forehead and arm. He pressed his lips tightly as she checked for bruises or swelling. Just minor bruises, she said, relieved. Nothing serious. I'll give you a mild painkiller and wrap your arm so it won't hurt when we move. She pulled out a pre-filled syringe with a fast-acting pain reliever. After cleaning the spot with alcohol, she injected the dose into his shoulder. He took a deep breath at the sting, but soon a look of relief crossed his face. Thank you, he said with a hoarse voice. I was scared. Sofía gently touched his cheek. I know, but it's over now. You're safe. She checked his pulse and breathing, then wrapped his arm with an elastic bandage, not too tight. She handed him a bottle of water. He drank slowly, and she gave him a tissue to wipe his sweat. Meanwhile, the older child came closer, holding the unloaded pistol. "Can I help, Mom?" the boy asked, his voice a little shaky. "Of course," she replied with a smile. "Hold this for me," she said, handing him the empty first aid kit. "Keep the bandages safe, but don't use them unless I say so." The boy nodded and placed it gently in his small backpack like it was a treasure. Sofía turned back to her partner and quietly held his hand. "I'm going to make a quick call to plan our next move to the safe zone. Just rest here for a moment, okay?" "Yes," he replied with a faint smile. "I trust you." She closed the case, stored it in the back seat, and took out the tactical radio. Before stepping away from the car, she transmitted softly, "Silva here. 2 Bravo at secure point. Requesting medical evac for mild trauma. Over." The reply came quickly and clearly. "Copy that, Bravo 2. Medical team on the way. Over." Sofía put away the radio and turned to face her partner, who now looked at her with eyes full of gratitude. In a calm voice, she reassured him, "They'll be here soon to take you to the hospital. For now, just rest and let me take care of you." He nodded and leaned his head gently on Sofía's shoulder. The younger child, hugging his older brother, came closer, and when he saw his father was okay, let out a quiet sigh of relief. At that moment, under the flickering light of a far-off street lamp, the family came together again. Sofía, nurse and agent, protecting the people she loved, offering quick medical care and warmth after the nightmare. Sofía walked steadily toward the next room, where her children had hidden before being taken to the living room. The door was slightly open. As she peeked inside, she saw the space dimly lit by sunlight coming through the high window. The air smelled of dust and old clothes. Inside, the 2 younger kids were curled up in a corner near the bed. The older one sat with the safety pistol on his lap, ready to protect his brother, while the little one stared at the floor, tears in his eyes. When they saw Sofía, both ran to the door. "Mama!" the older boy cried, his voice shaking. "I'm here, sweetheart," she answered. "It's okay now. Nothing bad can happen." She walked in slowly, closed the door behind her, and knelt down to be at eye level with them. She opened her arms, and the older child rushed into her hug. The little one followed right after, hiding his face in her chest. "Sho, it's over," Sofía whispered, holding them gently. "I'm here. I've got you." She checked their hands to make sure they weren't hurt. They were just shaking from the fear. Gently, she pulled back a little to look at them. "We're going to leave this place with Dad, okay?" she said. "Everything is under control." The older one nodded, and the younger gave a quiet yes. Sofía smiled warmly, feeling the fear start to fade from their hearts. She stroked their hair and gave them tissues from her medical kit to wipe their tears. "Stay close together," she said softly. "Dad is waiting for you outside." The older child put the safety pistol away and held his little brother's hand tightly. Sofía stood up slowly and opened the door, pointing toward the hallway. The kids followed her with small but steady steps. At the back door, a Bravo 2 agent waited to guide them to the car. He nodded politely and held out his arm for the older boy. "This way, sir." The boy took his arm, and the younger one held on to the other agent, both looking up with thankful eyes. Sofía stepped down the last stair and joined her family, blowing one last kiss toward the house. "Thank you," she said softly to the agents. "All clear, Mrs. Silva," one replied. "The area is secure." Sofía hugged the older boy while the little one climbed into the back seat. Then she wrapped the younger in her arms too. The cool, early morning air now felt softer, almost as if it was celebrating their victory. "Let's go home," Sofía whispered. "It's over now." As the car drove away, The house stayed behind in silence, its windows dark, and the captors unconscious in a corner. Her children, curled up safely, closed their eyes knowing that, in their mother's arms, they were safe. As the car drove off down the alley, the assault team still wasn't finished. Inside the house, 2 agents from Bravo 1 and Bravo 3 moved quickly, working to detain the remaining captors and gather proof of the crime. Back in the living room, Agent Navarro turned on her flashlight and scanned the tiled floor and scattered furniture. Beside her, Agent Ruiz knelt near the front door, inspecting the lock and checking for fingerprints or signs of forced entry. "There's dried blood and bits of fabric here," Navarro said, pointing to the base of the coffee table where the unconscious bodies had been placed. "I need photos and a few swabs for DNA." Ruiz nodded and pulled out his tactical camera, carefully taking pictures to avoid disturbing the scene. Then he opened a small case with clean swabs, collected samples, and sealed them in labeled tubes with the time and location. In the hallway behind the living room, another agent, Sergeant Lima from Bravo 1, opened the kitchen door slowly. Inside, there were greasy utensils and scuff marks on the floor, showing the path the kidnappers used to move the hostages. He spoke quietly. "Ruiz, come here. These shoe marks match the ones we saw in the backyard." Ruiz came over, placed a measuring stick next to the print, and took pictures from different angles, making sure the scale was visible. He also recorded tiny blue paint flakes from the kidnapper's tarp next to a piece of furniture. Meanwhile, Navarro checked the coffee table and a nearby shelf. She found several empty lidocaine capsules and 2 modified syringes, exactly like the ones Sofía carried in her medical kit. Wearing gloves, she placed them in an evidence bag. "This confirms how they were knocked out," she said. "These capsules came from a hospital batch. We can trace the source." Across the room, Bravo 3's Corporal Ortega examined the captured leader's phone. Most of the messages had been copied, but he noticed a cable connected to a makeshift charger under the table. He unplugged it and placed it into an evidence bag, noting it had been used for secret communications. "There are fingerprints here," Ortega added. "I'll get pictures of everything he touched." Carefully, he used damp swabs on the back of the phone and sealed the samples in tubes. Then he took a photo of the screen, which showed an encrypted messaging app. Finally, Navarro spotted a folder tucked under the couch. When she opened it, she found laminated papers with lists of names and addresses, along with receipts stamped paid. "This is the proof," she said excitedly. "Payment records, pickup locations, and a lawyer's signature. This ties everything together." Bravo 1 and Bravo 3 helped her pack the folder into a numbered evidence box, writing all details into the chain of custody log. With the scene fully documented and the captors cuffed and cornered, Sergeant Lima looked toward the door. "All set here, Silva," he said into the tactical radio. "Evidence secured. Suspects in custody." Just then, the sound of a car engine faded in the distance. It was Sofía's car, safely leaving the area with her family. Navarro let out a breath of relief and turned to Ruiz. "Good job," she said. "No one would believe how fast we moved, but we've got the proof." Ruiz nodded as they sealed the evidence boxes, ready to transport them to base. Quietly, they left the front door slightly open for the forensics team, making sure the scene stayed untouched. Silence filled the house again, except for the faint sound of sirens getting closer. The rescue mission was over, but the investigation was just beginning. The emergency room welcomed Sofía back with its usual energy. Soft alarms, the buzz of doctors and nurses hurrying from one cubicle to another, and an air thick with effort and hope. She removed her field jacket and placed her tactical case in a locked cabinet. Carefully, she unfolded her clean uniform, slipped it over her clothes, and placed her stethoscope around her neck. In that moment, she became once again who everyone knew: Nurse Silva, expert in emergencies. As she adjusted the name embroidered on her scrubs, her mind replayed every moment of the operation. The tension of the first signal, the flash of the strobe light, the embrace of her children, and the whisper of her partner thanking her for ending the pain. That other life, the undercover agent, was now locked away behind the ER doors, sealed inside a CIA-approved cabinet. No one there would guess that the same hands performing CPR had also disarmed kidnappers hours earlier. Down the hall, Dr. Vargas greeted her with a proud smile. She closed the shift logbook she'd been holding. "Silva," she called. "Everyone's talking about you. They say it was the cleanest rescue operation in the hospital's history." Sofía tilted her head with modesty and shook it gently. "I just did what needed to be done," she said. "Let's get back to work." Vargas gave her a knowing glance toward the room where the last suspect had been secured minutes earlier. "You're a hero," she said. "The director wants to see you in his office in 5 minutes. Get ready for an official commendation." In the hallway, quiet murmurs followed her steps. Patients she had healed, doctors impressed by her calm under pressure, and nurses offering discreet applause. A resident gave her a friendly pat on the back. "Great work, Silva. You saved lives and stayed cool like you were in an operating room." She offered a humble smile and kept walking. Inside the director's office, a small group of administrators and colleagues stood to applaud her. At the desk, the director held a recognition plaque and a sealed envelope marked Distinguished Service. "On behalf of the entire St. Clair Hospital," the director said with emotion in his voice, "we want to thank you for your bravery and professionalism. You are a true example to us all." Sofía felt her heart beat gently, this time without urgency or adrenaline. She accepted the plaque with one hand and tucked the envelope away discreetly. "Thank you," she said softly. "I was just doing my job." The director nodded and added, "We've also coordinated with the CIA to recognize your service officially. Your undercover agent ID will be archived here, in our Heroes section, under restricted access. Your story will inspire future generations of doctors and agents." Sofía took a deep breath, looked at the plaque, then at her colleagues. In that moment, she understood that her two worlds, the tireless nurse and the trained operative, had met in a single act of service. As she left the office, she tucked the plaque into her inner pocket and returned to the ER with a calm smile. A new patient was waiting, their pulse unsteady, needing her attentive ear and skilled hands. As she approached, stethoscope ready and coat spotless, her thoughts swirled in quiet gratitude. For a second chance, for the courage of her family, and for a recognition that now carried the weight of 2 lives. A small spark of pride lit her eyes. Though her origin as an agent would remain secret, that night, the entire hospital honored Sofía Silva, a hero in the shadows and a light in every emergency. The news opened with a wide shot of the St. Clair Medical Center's main entrance, its logo glowing in the morning sun. A deep, clear voiceover introduced the report. This morning, in an exclusive for Noticias Capital, Nurse Sofía Silva from the emergency department became the hero of a movie-like rescue, saving her own family from a violent kidnapping. Our investigation team has gathered images and testimonies that show the operation step by step. The scene changed to a temporary TV setup next to the hospital. On a big monitor, they played clips of home video footage showing masked men surrounding the living room of the house on Arboleda Street, number 23. The presenter, with a serious face, explained, "Here we see the moment the attackers forced the family to stay on the floor. Thanks to an anonymous call, which turned out to be from Nurse Silva herself, a joint operation was activated between local security forces and CIA agents stationed in the city." The field reporter, along with archived images, described Sofía's actions. She first attended to patients in critical condition, then received the anonymous call, and, while pretending everything was normal at the hospital, gathered key information to guide the assault. She used anesthesia techniques and vascular pressure control to silently neutralize the kidnappers. The video included statements from the hospital director. It was an exceptional act of bravery. We've never seen a nurse balance medical care with a rescue operation like that. We will honor her dedication with a commemorative plaque. Back in the studio, the presenter shared kidnapping statistics in the city, pointing out that this rescue was unprecedented. A graph showed a drop in incidents after the news broke. The direct involvement of CIA agents, combined with Silva's medical skills, prevented a tragic outcome. According to official sources, all hostages are safe, and the kidnappers were arrested without a single shot fired. The report cut to the testimony of one undercover agent, identified only as Bravo 1. Working with Nurse Silva was extraordinary. She gave us precise information and acted with courage. Without her, it would have taken longer and been more dangerous. The report also showed statements from local neighbors, who said they saw ambulances and unmarked cars leaving the alley behind the house early in the morning. One said, "We thought it was a drill, but it turned out to be real." Her bravery inspired the whole neighborhood. To finish, the anchorwoman reflected from the studio. Sofía Silva's story goes beyond her job as a nurse. It proves that with courage and determination, anyone can protect the people they love. This event will mark a turning point in the cooperation between medical and security services. In the final shot, the camera focused on the recognition plaque on a stand inside the hospital. It looked custom-made, with Sofía Silva written in gold letters. The presenter ended with a hopeful message. If you want to honor Nurse Silva and her team, the St. Clair family has opened a support fund for kidnapping victims. Today, more than ever, we learn that unity and courage can bring peace back to any home. The screen split into segments. The plaque, Sofia's calm face in uniform, and finally a subtitle announcing the full coverage of the recognition ceremony to be held later that evening at the hospital. The report faded to black, leaving viewers with the image of a nurse who, with a lab coat and silencers, saved lives both in and out of the emergency room. The wall clock marked 8 o'clock at night when the auditorium at St. Clair Medical Center filled with applause. Under a large banner that read, "Tribute to Bravery," Nurse Sofía Silva stepped onto the stage with steady steps. She wore her spotless lab coat and the Distinguished Service badge pinned to her chest. Behind her, a group of CIA agents, until then undercover, removed the flaps of their trench coats, revealing discreet recognition medals. The hospital director stepped up to the podium with a microphone in hand. His voice echoed through the expectant silence. Today we honor a double hero: the nurse who cares for every life in the ER, and the undercover agent who, with determination and calm, saved her family. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Silva. As the lights focused on her, Sofía felt her heart beating firmly, though her face stayed calm, as always. She walked to the center of the stage and looked out at the auditorium, filled with colleagues, grateful patients, family members who had survived the kidnapping, and the quiet men and women from the agency who had supported her. "Thank you," she began in a clear voice. "Tonight, I'm not the only one receiving this recognition. Every nurse," she glanced at the row of her co-workers, "who works tirelessly in the ER, every doctor who makes tough decisions, and every security team member, all of you deserve this honor." A roar of applause filled the room. Sofía paused, letting it fade before continuing. "A few weeks ago, a call changed my emergency shift into a life-or-death operation outside these walls. But it also reminded me that courage can begin in ordinary moments, in simple acts like holding a syringe, monitoring a heart monitor, or calming a scared patient. With the same strength I use to save my family, you save lives every day." The audience broke into applause again. Then the director presented a second award, a CIA badge, recognized by their Global Heroes section. Sofía accepted it humbly, knowing that this honor had to stay confidential outside the hospital. a secret shared with those who stood with her in the agency's shadows. Dr. Silva, the director continued, will go down in St. Clair's history as the first nurse officially recognized by both the CIA and our hospital. Her example strengthens the connection between healthcare and security. As the badge was placed on her coat, Sofía thought of her children, the oldest now seeing her as a hero, and the youngest sleeping peacefully at home, protected by her love and training. That night, images of the rescue appeared on the big auditorium screen. The video call, the hospital hallway, the tactical case, and finally her behind the wheel, driving toward a safer future. With the badge shining under the lights, Sofía turned and, locking eyes with one of the agents, gave a small, thankful gesture. He nodded slightly, knowing that this silent signal was the tie that bound two lives together, the nurses and the agents. "Tonight I return to the ER," she said at the end of her speech, "because that's where the heart of my calling beats. But I also want to say that sometimes duty calls beyond the hospital. Thank you for supporting me, for believing in me, and for showing that, together, we are unstoppable." The lights dimmed as the crowd stood and applauded non-stop. Sofía stepped down from the stage, surrounded by cheers, hugs from co-workers, handshakes from undercover agents, and tears from thankful family members. In that moment, she knew her life had changed forever. She was no longer just Nurse Silva or Agent Silva. She was a bridge between two worlds that together could save more lives than she ever imagined. The next day, back in her ER uniform, she sat down with a new patient. Same calm smile, same steady presence, and the discreet badge tucked beneath her coat. For her, each day began with the promise to care and protect, knowing that bravery has no borders, and that whether in the quiet of night or the chaos of a hospital, someone will always be there to protect the ones they love. If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments which part moved you the most. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the bell, and give a like so you won't miss more stories like this one. See you next time.